Liverpool's underworld has long been a crucible of ambition, power, and ruthless enterprise. As a major port city, it has served as a gateway for illicit goods and a breeding ground for formidable criminal empires. In the mid-19th century, the High Rip Gang and the Cornermen emerged as dominant forces in Liverpool's criminal landscape. Fast forward to the late 20th century, and figures like Tommy Tucker Comerford began to reshape the underworld. In the 1990s, Curtis "Cocky" Warren ascended to power, becoming one of Europe's most prolific drug lords. Warren's empire was vast, with operations extending across continents. His audacity and business acumen earned him a spot on the Sunday Times Rich list, a rare feat for someone from the criminal underworld. The Houghton firm, also known as the Cantrell Farm Cartel, also emerged in the 1990s and have since become one of the most powerful and secretive crime organizations in the UK. Founded by two brothers from the Houghton area, the gang has allegedly been involved in large-scale drug trafficking, blackmail, and violent crime. Their operations have significant international connections, and they have been known to use extreme violence, including firearms and grenades, to enforce control. In the early 2000s, street gangs like the Croxteth Crew and the Strand Gang, also known as the Nogger Dogs, became infamous. Their rivalries led to violent confrontations and high-profile shootings. In today's modern landscape, Liverpool's underworld continues to evolve. With new faces and shifting alliances, the city's criminal enterprises remain deeply embedded, with a legacy of larger-than-life personalities and new players on the rise. Anthony Duffy, a 33-year-old from Kirkby, Liverpool, was deeply entrenched in the city's criminal underworld. Known for his connections within the drug trade, he became familiar to certain residents in his local area. Born and raised in Liverpool, Duffy was exposed to the harsh realities of the city's streets from a young age. The area's history of organized crime, with figures like the aforementioned Tommy Comerford and Curtis Warren, served as a backdrop to his childhood. Duffy's early involvement in petty crimes quickly escalated as he sought to make a name for himself. By his late 20s, Duffy had established himself as a significant player in Liverpool's underworld drug scene. His operations were marked by boldness and a willingness to take risks that others would shy away from. Associates described him as ambitious, always looking for the next big score. Duffy's murder was the result of escalating tensions within Liverpool's dangerous gang scene. Before the fatal night, his circle was already under strain. Duffy's cousin faced significant pressure from figures in the local underworld. This raised the stakes for him and those close to him. The cousin's involvement hinted at the wider network of coercions typical of gangland deals. These threats nudged Duffy toward making a desperate move. Seeking to protect his family, Duffy plotted to rob a grow operation managed by Sean Walmsley and Christopher Kenny, two men deeply embedded in Liverpool's drug trade. The grow was a lucrative and highly guarded venture. Attempting to rob it meant crossing some of the city's most hardened gangsters. But the plan wasn't as secret as Duffy had hoped. Details leaked through trusted circles, suggesting that someone within his network tipped off Walmsley and Kenny. Suspicion spread, and what began as a high-stakes heist turned into a death sentence. The betrayal sealed Duffy's fate, setting the stage for a violent confrontation. As the weeks rolled on, an atmosphere of paranoia entered Duffy's world. Tensions within the criminal community built, signaling that retribution was imminent. Duffy's boldness had crossed a red line, and retaliation was no longer a question of if, but when. On the night of May 27, 2014, the streets of Aintree, Liverpool were cloaked in darkness, setting the stage for a brutal act of gangland retribution. Anthony Duffy was lured to Melling Avenue under the guise of a drug deal, a setup orchestrated by those he sought to deceive. As he approached the rendezvous point, unbeknownst to him, Sean Walmsley and Christopher Kenny lay in wait, armed and ready. The duo, notorious figures in Liverpool's drug trade, had discovered Duffy's plan to rob their farm and were determined to send a deadly message. The ambush was swift and merciless. Duffy was attacked with ferocity, sustaining 28 stab wounds in a matter of moments. The assault was so violent that a passerby inadvertently became entangled in the onslaught, falling beneath Duffy as the knives continued to strike. Witnesses reported hearing the attackers taunt their victim, calling him a house robber as they delivered the fatal blows. In the aftermath, Duffy lay on the pavement, the life draining from his body. The attackers vanished into the night, leaving behind a scene of carnage that would shock even the hardened residents of Liverpool's underworld. Duffy was rushed to the hospital, but succumbed to his injuries shortly after arrival. This brutal execution was a stark reminder of the ruthless code that governs the criminal underworld. A world where betrayal is met with lethal force, and the price of ambition can be death. In the unforgiving world of Liverpool's criminal scene, Sean Walmsley and Christopher Kenny stood out as formidable figures. Sean Walmsley, born in 1988, emerged from the gritty streets of Liverpool, where survival often meant aligning with the city's burgeoning drug trade. By his mid-20s, Walmsley had carved out a reputation as a ruthless enforcer. When intelligence reached him about Anthony Duffy's plot to rob his farm, Walmsley's response was swift. He viewed the attempted heist not just as a personal affront, but as a direct challenge to his authority, a challenge that demanded a deadly response. In the world he inhabited, allowing such an act to go unpunished would signal weakness, potentially inviting further threats to his operations. Christopher Kenny, born in 1989, was Walmsley's trusted associate. Known for his unwavering loyalty and readiness to execute orders without hesitation. Growing up in the same harsh environment, Kenny's path mirrored that of many young men in Liverpool, where the allure of quick money and power often overshadowed the perils of the criminal life. Kenny's role in the murder of Anthony Duffy was that of a willing participant, driven by a sense of duty to Walmsley. He understood that in their line of work, betrayal, real or perceived, was met with uncompromising violence. His actions were not just about eliminating a threat, but reinforcing the fear and respect that kept their operations running smoothly. For Walmsley and Kenny, the decision to murder Anthony Duffy was rooted in a brutal logic. Allowing Duffy's plan to rob their grow to go unpunished would set a dangerous precedent, potentially emboldening others to challenge their dominance. In the hierarchical structure of Liverpool's gangland, power was maintained through fear. Their actions were a message to both allies and adversaries. Betrayal and encroachment on their territory would be met with lethal force. This ruthless approach ensured their continued reign. Officers arrived at Melling Avenue in Aintree to find Duffy with multiple stab wounds, a clear indication of a targeted attack. The area was immediately cordoned off, and forensic teams combed through the scene for evidence. Witnesses reported seeing 3 men fleeing towards Longmore Lane, providing the first crucial lead. In the aftermath of the murder, Merseyside police launched an intensive investigation to unravel the complexities of the networks involved in these types of activities. One operation, codenamed Operation Blenheim, targeted the large-scale drug trafficking network operating between Merseyside as well as parts of England and Scotland. Christopher Welsh Jr., dubbed the Scouse Escobar, was the linchpin of one such gang. He had a keen intellect and ruthless ambition. He masterminded the logistics, ensuring seamless distribution and maximum profit. His father, Christopher Welsh Sr., brought seasoned experience to the table. Together, they forged a syndicate that became the envy of Liverpool's criminal elite. The Welshes employed a network of couriers who executed over 100 trips between Liverpool and Glasgow from September 2011 to October 2012. These foot soldiers transported substantial quantities of drugs, concealed within vehicles and personal belongings. Upon delivery, they collected cash payments, which were funneled back to Merseyside, fueling the cycle of supply and demand. Unbeknownst to the Welshes, their expansive operation had attracted the attention of Titan, the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit. The scale of their operation was staggering, with estimates suggesting the distribution of drugs valued between £100 million and £200 million. In a later series of coordinated raids, authorities targeted key members of the syndicate. The Welshes, along with their associates, were arrested, eventually leading to long prison sentences being handed down. On May 3, 2014, two 25-year-old men from the Walton area were arrested at Manchester Airport while attempting to board a flight to Amsterdam. They were taken into custody on suspicion of involvement in Duffy's murder. The trial commenced in June 2015 at Liverpool Crown Court. The jury heard compelling evidence, including cash transfers into an account, which prosecutors said was payment for the murder weapons. On June 26, 2015, Sean Walmsley and Christopher Kenny were convicted of Anthony Duffy's murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, each with a minimum term of 30 years. Very few escapes have matched the audacity of Sean Walmsley's breakout from custody. Serving a life sentence, Walmsley orchestrated an escape that would leave the authorities searching for over a year. Walmsley began his plan by feigning severe bowel issues, a ruse that necessitated medical evaluations outside the prison walls. To lend credibility to his act, he deliberately lost a significant amount of weight, presenting a frail appearance that convinced prison officials. This deception got him a scheduled appointment at Aintree University Hospital on February 21, 2017. On the day of the appointment, Walmsley was escorted by two unarmed prison officers. As they exited the hospital and approached a private hire taxi designated for their return to HMP Liverpool, two masked men launched an ambush. One of the attackers brandished an Uzi submachine gun, while the other wielded a knife. They threatened to cut the officers if they did not release Walmsley from his handcuffs. Faced with lethal force, the officers complied, and Walmsley was swiftly bundled into a gold-colored Volvo, which sped away from the scene. The escape triggered an extensive nationwide manhunt. Merseyside Police, in collaboration with national agencies, launched Operation Brink, a dedicated task force aimed at recapturing Walmsley. Recognizing the potential for public assistance, authorities offered a £20,000 reward for information leading to Walmsley's capture. Despite these efforts, Walmsley managed to evade capture, with sightings reported across the UK and even abroad. Walmsley's ability to remain at large for 18 months was attributed to support from criminal associates. The underworld's code of silence and loyalty provided him with resources and safe havens. Periodic raids on known associates yielded little information. On August 21, 2018, acting on intelligence, armed officers from Merseyside Police and West Yorkshire Police stormed a residence in the Hare Hills area of Leeds.
Police, show me your hand! Back off! Back off! Back off!
Walmsley was eventually located in a nearby vehicle, and after a brief confrontation where he was repeatedly tasered, he was apprehended. Upon his arrest, he reportedly remarked, "Good job, boys." Following his recapture, Walmsley faced additional charges for his escape. In October 2018, he pleaded guilty to escaping lawful custody and was sentenced to an additional 8 years to be served consecutively to his life sentence. In the unforgiving streets of Liverpool, where loyalty is currency and betrayal demands blood, the saga of Anthony Duffy lives on. He dared to challenge the hierarchy. His ambition led him into the lion's den, a move that would seal his fate. Sean Walmsley, Christopher Kenny, and their enforcer, Kirk Mello, saw their empire dismantled. Yet, within the prison walls, and in certain circles, they remain legends. Walmsley's audacious escape and subsequent recapture only added to his notoriety, cementing his status in UK gangland culture. On the streets, the power vacuum left by their downfall sparked a brutal scramble for dominance. New players emerged, eager to claim territory and respect, while old alliances fractured under the weight of ambition and greed. The cycle of violence continues to this day. In the end, the streets remember their own. Anthony Duffy's story is etched into the city's fabric, a stark narrative of loyalty and betrayal. In Liverpool's underworld, the game is eternal, and the players, no matter how formidable, are ultimately expendable. For more raw and real crime stories, hit the like button and subscribe. Until the next episode, stay alert and stay safe.